So this is 3.3. I put down a part 1, but I think we'll just go ahead and go through it all. There won't be a part 2 really quick, and I'll try to remember to do this in the future. I'm just going to show you the ones that I want you to do, and but make sure you pay attention to what I explain here so you can see it's 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 26A, as you can see there, 28, 30, 32, 34A, and then finally down to the bottom, the fair game review, 36, 38, 40, and 42. So if you're absent and want to know what problems, I've got several students absent today, what problems specifically to do, there you have it. So again, this is 3.3.
Can you scroll down a little bit so we can copy all the problems?
No, you'll just have to watch it again, okay? All right, and I'll be going through it all in a moment. Anyways, so expressions with the same value are called, as they say it here, equivalent expressions. So if I was to write something like 12 plus 2, that's the same thing as 2 plus 12. Those are equivalent expressions. And so when you're adding numbers together, the order doesn't matter. So if I wrote A plus B, that's going to be the same thing as B plus A. We don't know what those variables are, Mr. Leboutier, but they're the same thing, okay? So I'm looking at the key ideas here, dropping down to that. It says changing the order of the addends or factors, that's basically the numbers, does not change the sum or the product. Now notice they talked about sums and products, and I told you guys the other day sum means addition. Some of you asked me about that. And product, and I talked about this yesterday too, Mr. Orweller, product is multiplication. So look at the two examples they have here. 5 plus 8 equals 8 plus 5. A plus B equals B plus A. And then 5 times 8 is the same thing as 8 times 5. Okay, and A times B is the same thing as B times A. I could also write this as AB equals BA. That means the same thing as multiplying them together. All right. Now, when you talk about commutative property, we're talking about letters or variables or numbers individually. So if I wrote, let's see here, 3 plus 7 plus 2 plus 1 equals, and then I wrote 7 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, that expresses the commutative property. We're looking at each one by itself. They're not grouped together. When we're talking about associative property, now all of a sudden we're grouping some of these variables or numbers. And so you would never say A groups. And this is how I try to help students remember associative property. Associative starts with the letter A, and you would never say A groups as in plural multiple groups. We're talking about a group. And so look at the examples they give here. So they put 7, I can't quite read it, looks like 7 plus 4 plus 2 is the same as 7 plus 4 plus 2. But look where they put the grouping symbol, the parentheses. They put them around two different numbers. And so it doesn't change the value. It's the same thing. Just like the one below, 7 times 4 in parentheses times 2 is the same as 7, and then in groups 4 times 2. It doesn't matter. And then for algebra, if you just put in variables, just put in letters, it's the same thing. So just remember, commutative property, you have just individual numbers. There's no grouping symbols. Associative property would be with grouping symbols. All right, and if you can think of a better way to remember that, then you're welcome to it. I've never come up with a good way to explain that to help students remember, but maybe somebody would. So example 1 here, it says simplify the expression. And so this is an example of the associative property. So it has a grouping symbol. And so what have they done here? They got 7 plus and then 12 plus x. Well, notice what they did here. They just added the 7 and the 12. You can't do anything with the x because we don't know what it is. What's 7 plus 12? It's 19. So 19x would be simplifying this expression. Let me write my own here. What if I wrote 7 plus 3 plus a? And I said to simplify that expression. So what two numbers can you add together, Mr. Patania?
7 and 3.
Which would be what? 10. So if I said to simplify that expression, it would be just simply 10 plus a. All right? Same thing for multiplication. What if I wrote something like, and again, I can just put it in parentheses, how about 7.3, let's see here, times 1 plus z. I said to simplify that. Well, what's 7.3 times 1? 7.3 and then plus z. That would be simplifying the expression. So whether you're adding or multiplying, do that with the numbers that you can and then just leave in the variable. Let's look at the example they give here. It says on your own, simplify the expression. I'm looking at number 1 here. 10 plus a plus 9. 10 plus a plus 9. And they have a grouping symbol around the a and the 9, which almost looks the same. I got to work on my a's. So let me pull a stick here. Miss Harley, simplify that expression for me. That's 10 plus, and then in parentheses, a plus 9. Speak up, sweetie, I can't hear you. What's 10 plus 9?
19.
19a. There you go, all done.
Wouldn't it be plus a? Or
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. It would be plus a. Mr. Lesor put up 20 points. 19 plus a. Okay?
Wait, would 19a work though?
No, because that would be 19 times a. And there's a difference between, as Mr. Lesor recognized, 19 plus a versus 19 times a. Okay. Number 2, we've got in parentheses C, and I can't quite read that. You guys look in your book. Is that an addition sign there?
Yeah, that is
Okay, so we have C plus 2/3 plus 1/2. Okay, so C plus 2/3, and that's in parentheses, and then outside the parentheses is adding 1/2. Well, now we just got to add 2/3 and 1/2. 1/2 and 2/3. Haven't done any of these for a while. What's the common denominator? 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Times 1 is 3. 3 goes into 6 twice. Times 2 is 4. So 4 plus 3 is 7, 6. So it's an improper fraction, but that's okay. So I've added those two together because I can. What's left over?
Plus.
So it's 7, 6 plus C. Or somebody might have actually changed this into a mixed number. Maybe they would put 1 and 1/6 plus C. Same thing. All right? The last one, they've got 5 and then in parentheses 4n. So you should know by now that if you have parentheses next to a number, it means multiplication. So for example, what I just wrote right there, Mr. Rainbolt, what does that equal? Mrs. Werner's not here, Ms. Sensor's not here, set those sticks aside. Mr. McGee, 21. So this is the same thing as 21. So keeping that in mind, what's 5 times 4? 20, and then I would just put n. It is multiplication this time, so just put the variable right next to it. Okay?
Put 27 instead of 21.
Oh, you're right, I put 27 instead of 21. Miss Scott put up 20 points. I'm making all kinds of mistakes this morning. All right, I've even had coffee. Can't believe it. All right.
I didn't have coffee.
Addition property of 0. It says the sum of any number and 0 is that number. So let me read that again. Addition property of 0, the sum of any number and 0 is that number. So obviously 7 plus 0 is 7. A plus 0 equals A. Then they have the multiplication property of 0 and 1, and says the product, that means multiplication of any number and 0 is 0, and the product of any number and 1 is that number. So here's what they mean. So 17 times 0 equals what? 0. So you guys know that any number, no matter what it is, times 0 equals 0. So 0.05216 times 0 equals 0. Okay? And so all of these are an example of this. The product of any number and 0 is 0. Now another example here, what's 17 times 1 equal? 17. What's 1/2 times 1 equal? 1/2. And what's 0.05216 times 1 equal? Yeah.
0.05216.
Okay, and so these are an example of this one right here. The product of any number and 1 is that number. And I think you guys already knew that. Maybe they haven't verbalized it for you like they did here, but that's what that is. And that's called the multiplication properties of 0 and 1. And you'll want to refer back to this when you start working on the problems here. And then the addition property of 0, which is the one I went over just a minute ago. All right? Questions on that? Okay. I'm not going to, they have some examples here that you guys could look at. I'm not going to go through those, but they are good examples. And let's go down a little bit further here. On your own, I'm looking at that, 12 times b equals 0. It says simplify the expression. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, thank you. It's 12 times b times 0. Simplify the expression. Well, I'm not quite sure what they're looking for in that. I mean, to me, to simplify the expression, it's going to end up being 0, no matter what. So I think that would simplify the expression. And then 1 times m times 24. So again, I'm not quite sure what they're looking for in something like that.
Wouldn't it just be?
I think it would just be 24m.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, because the third product is 1, and anything times 1 is itself.
Unless
Okay.
we're doing m times 1 equals m, and then
So number 6 here, we've got t, looks like, is that a plus 15
Plus 15
plus 0? So that's just going to be simply t plus 15. That looks like a 7 there. Or maybe somebody would write 15 plus t. Okay. So I'm not sure what they would look for there. All right, let's go down a little further here and look at the ones that I want you guys to do. You can see them here. So it says, tell which property the statement illustrates. So you have to do 6, 8, and 10. And so you're going to go back to those properties we've been talking about for the last few minutes. And notice that some of them have parentheses and some of them don't. Notice that some of them have a 1 in multiplication and some of them have a 0. Okay? Going down a little further, 12 through 20. It says simplify the expression. In your book it says explain each step. I don't want you to worry about that. I just want to see you simplify the expression. All right? And we went over that just a few minutes ago. Anybody stuck on this? I think you guys should be able to do this. Okay? All right. And then 24 you should be able to do. Dropping down to 26. How are we doing on time here? 26A, 28, 30 and 32. And again, we talked about these properties. Commutative property of multiplication and addition property of 0. We went over those. 34 is a word problem, hats, so don't forget when you answer A that you label it. If they're talking about for the number of hats sold, if it's 13 hats, make sure you put the word hats, otherwise you'll lose a point. You'll get half of it wrong. All right? And then finally, 36, 38, 40, and 42.
Are we doing 43?
No. Okay. All right. You guys have some time here in class to work on this.
Only 17 minutes.
Only 17 minutes? Why do you say that?
For your video.
Oh, my video. Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah.
I'll pause that
Okay.
before it gets to at least 20.
Stop video.
I said